the Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. On the show tonight, are the far right using comedy as a Trojan horse to tear down a progressive utopia? That's the claim from The Guardian this week, which we'll be debating in just a moment. A new report backed by the government has revealed a damning but obvious truth. Antisemitism has been normalised in middle-class Britain. And have you heard of respect orders? Probably not, as the government tries to sneak them into the crime and policing bill. They are potentially a huge threat to civil liberties, and we will be explaining exactly why. Also, one Irish student's display of the Israeli flag at a pro-Palestine event has sparked international controversy after footage shows he was violently confronted and forcibly removed from the venue. He is joining us here in the studio to tell us exactly what happened. And we've also got some comedians answering crazy cultural conundrums from our live studio audience. But first, the news with Lewis Mackenzie.
Josh, thank you very much. Good evening. It's just after 7 o'clock. Here are your latest GB News headlines. Let's start with that breaking news that a small plane has crashed shortly after taking off at Southend Airport. In a statement, Essex police say that they remain on the scene of a serious incident and were alerted to reports of a collision involving one 12-metre plane. Images posted on social media show a plume of fire and black smoke coming from the crash site at the Essex airport. Police remain on the scene alongside fire and ambulance services. Moving on, more than 1,400 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel since Sir Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron signed the Migration Returns Agreement. This comes only days after the PM hailed the agreement with Paris as a historic deal, allowing for a partial return of small boat migrants arriving in the UK. Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander says 12,000 migrants have been stopped since Labour came to power. She spoke to Camilla Tominey earlier today.
The way we're going to solve this problem is by working with the French authorities. This is a pilot scheme. We're keen to see the scheme ramp up if it's successful. We're also working with the French authorities on making sure that they can take action in the shallow waters, in the French waters off the coast of France, to be able to stop small boats from reaching our shores in the first place. We have, by working with France, prevented about 12,000 channel crossings since we came to power, but there's more to do.
Meanwhile, the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, says that the deal is nothing more than a gimmick.
Only 6% of illegal immigrants crossing the Channel will get sent back to France. The other 94% will get to stay in the UK. And obviously, having 94% of illegal immigrants staying in the UK will not act as any deterrent at all. It's another gimmick, just like Keir Starmer's Smash the Gang gimmick a year or so ago, which you'll notice he never mentions anymore, because so far this year we've seen record ever numbers of illegal immigrants crossing the English Channel, the highest number in history so far this year. And I'm afraid this so-called deal, this gimmick last week, is going to make no difference to that whatsoever.
A child has died in hospital after contracting measles amid fears the disease could spread as vaccine rates plummet. The child passed away at Alder Hey Children's Hospital in Liverpool. It's understood the child had been suffering from another health complication. This comes days after the parents reportedly described feeling scared as several children in Merseyside were hospitalised due to the spread of the measles virus. And finally, to the Women's Euros now, where England face Wales in the last game of the group stages, with a place in the quarter-finals on the line. English and Welsh fans are feeling confident going into tonight's clash.
You know, anything can happen tonight, and we're just here for it.
Yeah, I think at least if we can get another goal just to give, obviously, like our side something to like celebrate, I think, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think England, we're going to outperform them on the pitch, but I think they're going to outsing us in the crowds.
Well, good luck to both of them. Those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. Now it's back to Free Speech Nation.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is a show we cast our gaze across the spectrum of culture, current affairs and politics, doing our best to bring a bit of common sense to that which has become senseless. We've got a packed show for you this week, including an exclusive interview you do not want to miss. Have you seen this clip? I'll be joined in the studio by that brave Irish student who was attacked and forcibly moved from a pro-Palestine event for pulling out an Israeli flag. But first, let's get straight into tonight's debate. Are the right using comedy to tear down progressive societies? Well, that is what Guardian columnist George Monbiot has argued this week, arguing that right-wing commentators are trying to normalise and mainstream violent rhetoric by dressing them up as mere jokes. He used a recent example in which Spectator writer Rod Liddle was actually reported to the police for his tongue-in-cheek comments. In a recent magazine, he wistfully contemplated the idea of nuking Glastonbury Festival, pointing out that it would, quote, immediately remove from our country almost everyone who is hugely annoying. Just days after publication, the Labour leader of Brighton Hove County Council tweeted that he should be reporting both Rod and The Spectator's editor, Michael Gove, to Sussex Police for incitement to terrorism. So, is the right really using comedy to disguise extreme and hateful ideas? Joining me to debate this is Labour activist Aisha Ali Khan and associate editor of the Daily Skeptic, Laurie Wastel. Welcome to the show. Aisha, start with you. Did you see this Rod Liddle quote? Were you greatly offended? Did you think he was going to nuke Glastonbury?
I did read it, and I was shocked that it had even been given the green light to be published, and I was offended. I wasn't shocked because this is the kind of stuff we've come to expect from Mr. Liddle.
But he does write. I just want to say straight away that he does say it's a joke. He's wistful. He said, I don't really want it to happen. I mean, that paragraph is right there. He's very clear about it. The intent.
Josh, the headline, and then you have to read like 10 or 11 lines down to actually see him saying, "Well, I'm only joking. It's a bit of banter, etc., etc." And I think, honestly, this kind of language has been so normalised now by the right, kind of making random jokes and laughing about horrible things that could happen and then saying, well, look, we're sorry we've offended, but, you know, get a life, get a sense of humour and so on.
So I just want to say, is this something that's specific to the right, do you think? Because maybe you could argue that the left, the problem is that they're not making enough jokes. They've sort of failed.
Well, I think it's important to set this in context. Why was Rod Liddle wanting to talk about Glastonbury here, and why was he using this particularly lurid metaphor? He was doing it partly in response to those comments that we heard at Glastonbury the previous week from Bob Villan, of course, chanting with the whole crowd joining in to kill the IDF, and other nasty comments as well. And so, you know, this was sort of, well, you can do that, I'll do this. But of course, I think it's very important to point out, I've got the quote here, in fact, you know, he does say very, very explicitly, I am not saying that we should do this. Of course, it would be a horrible and psychopathic thing to do. And yes, that is 11 lines down, but really, you know immediately from reading it that it's satirical because it's Rod Liddle, and of course The Spectator magazine, the oldest magazine in the world, by the way, is not going to be actually advocating that people bomb Glastonbury. That would be ludicrous.
Fair enough. Well, Aisha, two things. First of all, do you think that we should expect people to read 15 lines into an article? And secondly, were you as offended by comments that came out at Glastonbury in terms of death to the IDF?
I think if you look at what actually happened at Glastonbury, the act, Bob Villan, he was pointing out the atrocities that had been taking place in Gaza over the last nearly 2 years now. And obviously, even today, we've had news of people, children...
But you're justifying him saying death to the IDF. I mean, he's calling for the death of all... You know, there's conscription in Israel, so he's saying that basically all the Jews should be wiped out there.
So I have been to Israel and I have met amazing Israelis, and I've got friends actually who live there. And the idea that I would want somebody to chant this, to saying death to not only, like you said, Israelis, but Jewish people as well, is wrong. And I said this at the time as well. But the people that Ron Liddle is saying we need to bomb are people who support not just what's going on, the chants that were made, an end to genocide. Let's be honest, this is what the issue is.
Let's be honest, it's not genocide.
I think you'll argue that a lot of people... I think you'll see that a lot of people... Well, it can't be really a war, Josh, because both sides need to have weapons.
Yeah, Hamas have weapons, and they use them to great effect on October 7th.
But the people that are being killed are women and children.
Which happens in war. It's very unfortunate, but that doesn't make it a genocide. I'm not saying that it's a good thing. I'm just saying it's a war, not a genocide. But that's a separate debate.
Conversation, absolutely.
We'll talk about it in the break.
We will. Look, I've seen enough. I've been a teacher for 20-odd years. I've seen the rhetoric leading up to what happened in Nazi Germany, the Holocaust, and the language that was used. And we're kind of at that stage here where everybody's talking about the language. We're talking about getting rid of people that you don't agree with. I mean, even just yesterday, Donald Trump is saying, let's get rid of Rosie O'Donnell because she doesn't agree with him. This is the sort of language that dictators use to silence.
This is a great point. I just would happen to disagree with you that this rhetoric is coming from the right, because the chants for death are coming from arguably the left. I would also say that Andrew Doyle has a very funny joke about Al-Qaeda starting as a sort of improvisational comedy troupe that went wrong. Like, this idea that something starts as comedy and then leads to hate is a
Can I
somewhat
just
ridiculous
say,
idea.
Ron Little isn't a comedian. He's not going to get up on the stage and say, I'm here to offend, and haha, we're all going to laugh about it. He is a journalist, and he's writing...
But he is making a satirical point, and he can do that, and he was very clear that it was a satirical point. Have you seen do you think that there is any truth to this? Because, I mean, this George Monbiot article sort of blew my mind, how it sort of would take 3 hours of Free Speech Nation to kind of tear apart every little line. But this idea that clowning is going to destroy our society, what do you think about that?
Well, it's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, what's going to destroy our society is this absolute zeal we have for censoring speech, and whether, in fact, I've argued that both Bob Villan and Rod Little and anyone else should be free to speak in this way.
Get out of here!
I do not, obviously do not like what he said, but the idea that we increasingly have as a society, of which I'm sure you talk about a lot on this show, that words necessarily lead to violence. That I mean, you said earlier that Aisha, that Rod said we need to bomb it. That's not what he said. He was speculating. He was doing something provocative. He was absolutely not saying we need to bomb it. And that, the Spectator wrote a rather amusing rebuttal to this this week, in which they said, oh, well, actually, yeah, it was really quite serious what Rod had said, because, of course, in the Spectator offices, there's actually a bunker below them. You'd think it was just somewhere where they have several journalists and occasionally have a wine party, but in fact, the bunker below where they're enriching weapons-grade uranium. And, so we could soon see a rocket launch from their back garden all the way over to Somerset. Of course, that's ridiculous. But, the whole point is that he's making a joke.
Yeah, it's interesting how people use comedy, or they say, oh, look, they're using comedy as a defence. NECAP, obviously it's an ongoing case, but but it has been pointed out that they have used the defence that it's actually satire. So you're getting it from both sides of the political spectrum here.
No, I understand, but my understanding has always been from a person of colour, a Muslim woman. I literally, when I wrote about, for example, Boris Johnson's comments about the burqa 8 years ago, and the increase in Islamophobic attacks against Muslim women, whether they wore the hijab or the burqa or the niqab, whatever it was, they were basically being targeted because it had been allowed. There was a mainstream element to it. Boris Johnson.
But do you really believe that it's that making a joke is what leads to then violence? Because there's no evidence ever of that happening.
Well, Josh, actually, there is evidence that there was a massive increase of reported hate crime at the time this happened.
But there's no proof of causation.
In the week afterwards, I think there was something like 80% increase in attacks against Muslim women after Boris Johnson made those comments. So there is an absolute direct link between making comments that might be quite outrageous, might be quite funny, and so on, and actually things happening on the ground for people, Muslim people, Asian people, and so on. But I just also want to add that everybody, we all love having a joke and so on. We all recognise banter when we see banter, but there is a line. And when I was researching this before, and I just noticed all these people that had been arrested and actually charged. For example, the teacher that was holding up a placard calling Rishi Sunak a coconut, for example. She faced nearly 1.5 years of being on bail and having a court case, and the fear of having a court case hanging over her. And these are the sort of things where you see people making comments about blowing things up and, oh, we're only joking.
But you're saying that you
it.
think that was bad, but this is... That one's OK, but this one's OK. It seems like
that's bad as well. But the way people are treated, I mean, if I, God forbid, ever made a comment about let's bomb something because I'm not happy about it, I don't agree with their views, I can imagine, I won't even have to imagine this, by the way, Josh. I know I'd be getting a phone call from the police, I'd be getting a visit from Prevent, perhaps. I'd probably lose my job, I would be vilified online, I probably will get cancelled. These are the things that I have noticed, and it's not fair. Nobody should be making comments like this, and nobody should be advocating for violence, even when they're joking.
Well, I think we can all agree with that. No one should be advocating violence. But this wasn't. There seems to be this discrepancy here between someone actually, not ironically, calling for the death of people and someone making what is obviously a joke. There also seems to be a bit of hypocrisy, possibly even both sides, where people say, oh, well, they're saying it's a joke and it's not OK, we're saying it's a joke and it is OK. And that seems to be coming from both the left and right a little bit.
Well, I absolutely agree with you, Josh, that you should defend free speech in all cases, but I will really have to push back on that presentation of it as these hate speech laws are being mostly applied to the left. That's absolutely not true. We have the case of Lucy Connolly, of course, who went to prison for 31 months, who's still in prison today for a single swiftly deleted tweet. And there are many other people, during those riots and during that unrest who sent one or two things online, sent a Facebook post, and who are now in prison. So for you to say that these laws, yes, they do sometimes infringe on the speech of people who would identify as on the left, but broadly, the reason that two-tier justice is such a widespread perception in the country is because they're weaponised against people like Lucy.
Sorry, and I will say also that someone making a Labour person making a gesture, a throat gesture, that hasn't even gone to court yet.
Absolutely.
And so you can see right there.
No, and that should go to court, and that person was absolutely wrong. We can't. I mean, if we are to respect one another and we are to live in a democracy and listen to each other's views and so on, we have to have that level of understanding that this is what we're here together. You know, I'm not going to disappear off the face of the planet, and neither other people. And it's about dialogue and it's about moving forward and having conversations in a sensible way. But when you have people who are literally saying, "Let's bomb so and so because we don't like them," and obviously he didn't just mention.
Do it. He said, "What would happen if it were bombed?" And he made an amusing, speculative
and how much he'd like to get rid of people that he didn't like, and he mentioned druggies and hippies and the middle class.
I know,
and
but
so
you
on.
see that coming from both sides. When people say Zionists, they want to get. So you are getting this kind of rhetoric from both sides. Again, to just return to this point, it just feels like one side is actually doing incitement to murder, as opposed to doing a joke, maybe an off-color joke, maybe you don't agree with it, but then when something is using comedy, and I just want to go back, let's move this on just slightly, this idea that the right in particular are using comedy, and you have websites like Babylon Bee. I would just like to point out that even though I still consider myself of the left, but it seems like the right are using comedy better, certainly something like the Babylon Bee, and it feels like I'm sort of sad for the left for failing to use comedy in this world, like led by donkeys, which is just rubbish.
Yeah, well, indeed. I mean, it's a totally humorless worldview, this worldview that says, oh, you said something that offends me a bit, and actually I'm now going to call the police on you because I think I take things very literally, and I think that Rod Liddell was literally advocating that we drop a nuclear bomb on Somerset. It's manifestly ridiculous.
Aisha, I'm a stand-up comic. I'm slightly concerned about what you would think about coming to my gig. I'm worried that you might call the police on me afterwards.
No, if I'm invited, I'll turn up, Josh.
OK, fine. But do you sort of see that there might be an hypocrisy here in this kind of positioning of this is terrible, but it's OK when other people do it? Do you think that does go on?
Well, I can't say for other people, but I know for myself, and I've called it out on both sides. I've called it out when it's happened on the left, and, for example, the Palestinian marches, and I've called it out Ron Liddell and others as well. And I think that we have to respect one another, and I've said this earlier as well. But if something's wrong, I can't stay quiet about it. I've got to say something. And we talk about what's going on politically. It's so polarised right now. And I remember when Brexit happened and how people were at the time. I remember thinking, oh, my God, this is bonkers. Everybody's, like, having a go at each other. And it's only gotten worse since then. Literally, it's been, in 9 years.
It's a shame because comedy can be a great equaliser, a great healer, and used at its best, can point out the hypocrisies on both sides.
Yep.
So let's see how that goes. And, yeah, please do come to the gig and hopefully laugh. Oh, you're all invited. We'll see how that works out.
Thank you.
Just a final suggestion, if you don't like Rod Liddell's columns, don't read them.
Oh, I don't. I don't.
Oh, well, then, I mean, what's the problem?
So everybody's
the problem
happy
is
now.
it's everywhere, and also mainstream media have hardly reported on this. There have been a few articles. It's been in all the sort of newspapers and online.
But it was one person's it was one person's comment in a magazine. It's not like this is now become government policy that we are going to nuke Glastonbury.
It's been reported in lots of other places, but it was ignored by the Daily Mail and it was ignored by all the mainstream.
Well, I think there's one thing that we can agree on. Every time you talk about comedy, it's massively unfunny. So, coming up later on the show, an exclusive, I'll be joined in the studio by the brave student who was violently attacked for his Israeli flag. Before that, we'll be taking questions from our live studio audience, trying to get some common sense on today's biggest issues. Before we go to a break, though, big round of applause for our guests. Thank you so much for joining us.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My comedian guests this evening are Cresta Wett and Steve N. Allen. Here they are! Look at these guys! Reunited at last! We're here, best friends forever. I haven't spoken to a friend for a long time. How are you, Cresta? You all right?
Very well, thank you. I'm enjoying the weather.
Yes, and I'm enjoying being in this lovely air-conditioned basement.
Exactly, yeah. Stop sweating from my back. Good moves.
Yeah, for me, it's all over my body. So we're going to get some questions from our audience. Our first question's from Chris.
Hi, Josh. Should divorce pay for their husband's boobs?
Yes.
Ex-husband's
Okay.
boobs.
Yes. Should divorcees pay for their ex-husband's boobs? Thank you, Chris, and thank you for wearing that top. I asked you specifically to come straight from a gay club, and Thank you.
Who, me?
It's brilliant. So, this is a woman has been ordered to pay half of her ex-husband's breast surgery costs after a judge ruled that the cosmetic surgery was a need and not a whim. The ex-wife says her husband's decision to transition led to the breakdown of the marriage, and therefore she thinks it's unfair to have to find half of the £160,000 bill. Crested,
£160,000?
Yeah.
Where is this trans lady getting her breasts?
I don't know. And I want to visit.
Extraordinary. Anyway, that's not what you were going to ask me.
No, no. What do you think about this? Do you think that she should pay?
No, but I do think they... no, I don't.
Which
I don't
she am I talking about?
Exactly. No, I don't. I find this... And the judge made these comments kind of saying, this is totes unfair, however, I'm going to do it anyway. And I thought, well, don't do it. Don't make that decision. I think it's ludicrous.
Well, it was worse than that. The judge was supposed to basically say they've got no choice. This isn't a whim. Whether it's a whim or not, it's a decision to do it, and it is cosmetic surgery, technically.
Well, even if it wasn't, I do think we're in this weird state of society where we kind of think the standard of living I was used to in the marriage should be afforded to me. No, it's part of the deal, isn't it? Like, my missus earns more than I've got, has got more money than I've got. If we go our separate ways, I don't have a right to that. I can't be like, oh, I can't afford all the streaming services I had when I was married to her. I think I should just suck it up. And so in that case, I think that should be applied in general to all of the
You could just share your passwords.
Good idea. Why am I still married? But that's I'll think about that later. But in this particular case, it's just timing, isn't it? Because normally there are some wives who would like to emasculate their husbands during the marriage. This is just an after thing, isn't it? I'm sure the surgery assumption she might have been in favour.
She's emasculating him?
No, but it could be that she should say, I will pay for half of it if you let me do the cutting.
Get it done for less.
And keep the balls.
Oh, Josh.
But do you not think this is the first time? Because normally the stories are the husband absolutely gets fleeced in a divorce, and this when I read the story, I was like, oh, it's the other way around. But I realised the only way a guy gets to get some money out of a divorce is if he becomes a woman during it. It's the only way to make some cash at this.
What do you think, Cressida? Do you think if I was to break up with my wife that I should get her to pay for half of my hair surgery?
Half of your... I think you could have a whip round among your Twitter followers for that, Josh. We discovered that when you shaved your head.
It's true, it's true. All right, well, our next question is from John.
Are traditional values a sign of extremism?
Yeah, are traditional values a sign of extremism? Canadian police have warned that people with traditional values could be extremists. They are warning the public to stay vigilant and say that signs of extremism could include people isolating themselves and changing their behaviour, changing their opinions, and becoming more extremists. All this despite acknowledging that traditional views are perfectly legal. Conservatives have hit back, accusing the Royal Canadian Mounted Police of labelling mainstream views as extreme. John, do you think that marriage is a good thing?
No, yeah, it depends on...
You extremist!
Depends on the individual case, really. Yeah.
Oh, I see, yes. I wasn't proposing.
That was qualified.
Calm down, relax. But this is what we've seen, isn't it? It's like when we had over here where someone had a book on Douglas Murray, or was it Brexit? Or the police,
books.
Where they were looking at, those books are a bit Brexity, but extreme.
It's so easy to be extreme now, isn't it? Bob Villan didn't have to do his naughty stunt at Glastonbury. You know, he could have just bought some
I love my wife.
Exactly. I think it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, yeah, but this is what's been happening. I mean, Canada is a particularly woke country.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at you wearing a tie.
Oh, yeah.
Children, you're married. Are you an extremist?
Well, it could be. I think that's the point here. The could does a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
Yeah.
Having a traditional value could mean you're an extremist. Sure, like, I like to hold the door open for a lady, and if you don't do that, I could hunt you down and kill you. That would be an extreme point of view. Like, there are some people who don't like those who end a sentence with a preposition. If then you follow that up with a letter bomb, that's something we could talk about. That is something about which we could talk.
OK. Fair enough.
Took a lot of work to come up with that joke on the way in.
I am very impressed. Our next question is from Melvin.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Should parents be allowed to keep their children out of school to prevent them being brainwashed?
Yes. Should you be able to take your kid out of school to prevent brainwashing? So French courts have ruled that parents have no right to protect their kids from gender ideology. In February, the French Ministry of Education published an updated curriculum. At age 7, children will be introduced to the idea that some people are transgender, and at 10, that there's no connection between sex and gender, and that gender identity is a feeling. When 8 associations and 300 parents took their complaints to the Council of State, France's highest court of administration matters. They lost. Mel, what do you think about this? Would you take your kid out to avoid them learning about transgender ideology?
I think I would. But in a perfect world, I think it's a good idea. But the way things are going at the moment, if parents were allowed to do that, 50% of schools would probably have to close.
Yeah, for at least for that few days. It is brainwashing, though, isn't it, Cressida?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's not presented as an option, is it? It's presented as fact. I completely agree. I think the schools would be empty, and that's why they're cracking down so hard on this. Because if you said, well, it's up to you, take it or leave it, I think not many people would take it, and then it would all fall apart.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different thing here. Look, if they're showing books and they've got gay couples, lesbian couples, and it's just part of people's lives, brilliant, showing children that different types of families exist and all are valid, and that's fair enough. But when they are talking about, like, you can change sex, and even, as happened to my kids when they were 8, where they were like, someone came in and talked about how there were like 100 different genders, that is brainwashing.
I must have taken a long lesson to get through them all.
Yes.
Do you know, if you got that's a full course, isn't it? You go to GCSE for that these days. No, I think...
No, they barely got through it because all the kids had to introduce their pronouns.
Yeah, it takes a while, doesn't it? I mean, if it were part of the national curriculum to also include the counter-argument to that, or the discussion around it, then that's different. I mean, in general, to answer the question, I think parents should be allowed to take their kids out from school. And if you've got the kind of parents who shy away from anything in education, if you've got the ones who are, you know, the 6,000-year-old Earth one, tough luck. Looks like you're not going to learn science. So I think the parents have to have more responsibility than the schools. Otherwise, the society don't really work.
Well, I've got a solution to this, which is do these classes just before the holidays. That way, I can take the kids out of school, get a cheap flight somewhere, and then when they come at me and say, why won't you? I say, well, sorry, I just don't want to be brainwashed. We'll see how that works. Anyway, coming up later in the show, an exclusive, I'll be joined in the studio by a brave student who was violently attacked for his Israeli flag. But next on Free Speech Nation, a new report has stunned its authors as it reveals anti-Semitism has been normalised in Britain. Don't go anywhere. See you in 2 minutes. Bye.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, well, there's plenty of hot and sunny weather across Europe, but there are still some showers out there for some of us. Across Madeira, sunny spells, some outbreaks of rain. Canary Islands, a mixture of sunny spells too. Plenty of sunshine across Portugal and Spain, with some showers across the Alps. Across the Greek islands, plenty of sunshine here and feeling hot. And that continues as we go through the week. Plenty of sunshine with temperatures into the low 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Low pressure starting to move in, so the heat wave ending. Still hot in the southeast for Monday, but many areas turning fresher. And we can see that nicely on the pressure pattern. Low pressure starting to dominate. Weather fronts moving in, bringing the risk of some heavy rain and thunderstorms in places too. This evening time, fairly quiet, though. As the bands of showers get going, we'll see some hefty downpours developing, particularly across Northern Ireland down into Wales. Some heavier showers developing across Northern England and Scotland during the early hours as well. But another very warm night to come. Temperatures widely 15 to 18 Celsius, so another fairly uncomfortable night for sleeping. And a different picture for Monday morning. Sunny spells and scattered heavy showers developing. So if we take a look at the details, we can see northern Scotland, some low cloud initially, best of the sunshine across the Highlands, drizzly across towards Aberdeenshire, but the risk of some heavy showers already pushing into southern Scotland, clearing Northern Ireland, still some for northern England as well. Bands of showers pushing across Wales, parts of England, but in between, sunny spells and temperatures on the warm side up to around 21 Celsius at 8 a.m. And then through the day, we'll see these bands of showers push north and eastwards, some thunderstorms developing. Could be quite torrential across northern England into southern Scotland come the afternoon. Some localised flooding possible here, but not everywhere will see the showers. Lots of places could stay dry, particularly across England and Wales, and fresher for all. The low 20s generally, but still towards 30 Celsius in the southeast, so still well above average for the time of year. Low pressure still dominating into Tuesday. Bands of showers, longer spells of rain pushing north and eastwards across many parts. Feeling much fresher as the winds pick up too. Temperatures generally will be around average for the time of year, reaching the low 20s, maybe 23 or 24, and it stays similar through the rest of the week with further rain at times too. See you later.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Antisemitism has been normalised in middle-class Britain. A government-backed report has found as the authors admitted that they were stunned into silence by the evidence. The review warned that Jewish people in the UK were suffering increasing prejudice in their professions, cultural life and public services, and are being tolerated rather than respected. Inconsistent policing of hate crimes against Jews, including at pro-Palestine protests, was also highlighted. Joining me in the studio to discuss this report and its findings is journalist Nicole Lampert. Nicole, this is something that I don't think is going to be a shock to you and I, who are sort of on the front lines of all of this. Yeah. It's interesting, actually, that the two of the authors were so shocked about it, who aren't Jewish.
Yeah, although it's shocking that the anti-Semitism czar was shocked.
Yes.
That probably gives an indication that it's obviously really bad.
Yes.
Maybe even worse than he could have imagined, and he's meant to be the person in government looking after it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that you just, when you put it all together like this,
yeah,
that's when you can really see how this country, unfortunately, has changed over the last 10 years.
Yeah, well, you know, it's almost impossible to have a gathering of Jews together without someone talking about what do we do, where do we go, are we going to have to leave, do our children, do our grandchildren have a future in this country?
And where do you get the bagels?
Yeah.
That was the other.
Yeah. And we're safe. You know, that's the worrying thing. You know, Israel is there, but it's not exactly safe.
Yeah, but there are people who are making that choice, who are saying that they feel that Israel is safer now than the UK. You yourself wrote an article a few weeks ago about how the people who are considering making Aliyah, it's called making Aliyah, has massively increased over the last year.
Yeah, because people see the writing on the wall, and I think some people might say you're just being hysterical. And of course, every ethnic group has racism against them, and this is part and parcel of that. But I think when you're Jewish, you kind of grow up knowing, well, you grow up as either your grandparent or your great-grandparent or just going back just a few generations, someone had to leave somewhere because of anti-Semitism, because of murderous anti-Semitism. And of course, we have the Holocaust, which is still within living memory. So we know how bad it can get, even in a place like 1930s Germany. We know how quickly things can become that seem in control and inconceivable, suddenly end up in mass murder. So we've got, here we have many problems. We have a history of anti-Semitism kind of in the British soil that's always been there, that even when I was a kid, like a kind of 6-year-old, I was uninvited to a friend's house because I was a dirty Jew. But generally, that we don't hear that much anti-Semitism like that, but you hear the dirty rat thing, like, for example, we got from Gary Lineker, rat and Zionist. So a lot of these things, like baby killer and stuff, they are actually medieval anti-Semitisms. And we've seen them being talked about again and again. And as the report talks about, it's happening in schools, in universities, in the NHS in particular, it's in unions. And one of the things is that the report talks about is that the people that Jews should be able to go to for protection, for example, their unions, are the people that are the worst.
Yeah, I mean, that's what so sort of maybe differentiates this racism from what's happened before, is the inability of institutions, certainly anti-racist organisations, to even acknowledge that this racism is going on, that it exists.
Yeah.
Also, they might point to it and go, well, you know, I think that some people go, oh, well, you know, it's not like Jews being rounded up and killed. Forgetting, of course, that something like the Holocaust didn't just happen overnight. It was a drip of, you know, from 10 years leading of dehumanisation that led up to it, which is what we are seeing now. So you could argue, of course, that Jews, we are very good at recognising the steps that are taken on the way there.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, it's part of the problem is, and I think one of the things they talk about is that anti-Semitism isn't seen as a racism when it should be, and even though Jews are covered as an ethnic minority under the Equality Act, it's not treated as a racism, and that's one of the problems. But whether that helps cure it, I don't know. But as you mentioned, the people that are looking out for racism, the DEI, that lot are not helping, and often they're the instigators. For example, there's a university in London, and the DEI lead, he runs a charity that's for Gaza that's been linked with Hamas. And these are just some of the problems, that the people that are running the DEI, so the anti-racists, are the racists in this instance. And that's what makes it different to other forms of racism. And again, I don't want to denigrate the fact that all sorts of minorities all have different types of racism against them. And there's racism that I don't suffer because I have white skin, that somebody with black skin would suffer. But similarly, we have 3,000 years of tropes that are inherited and built upon and built upon and built upon. And of course, what's made it all so much worse is the war, and that's what's kind of ramped up to these highest levels. And the problem is that even when the war is over, and I really hope it will be over soon, do we ever go back to the way things were? And I don't think that we will.
Yeah, but arguably, the war has become the flashpoint, but really this started in the Corbyn era, 2015-16, and has kind of grown, unfortunately, exponentially from there. And even before October 7th, in the war before, the year before, we saw a massive spike in anti-Semitism there. Do you think that people who need to will see this report and make the changes necessary, or do you think it's just going to be sort of fingers in the ears and pretending that they're just good people and there's no way that they could be racist and they don't have a racist bone in their body?
I think a bit of both. So I think what we have seen over the last 18 months is Jews kind of and allies stamping our feet enough about, for example, the hate marches, to the point where now they are no longer outside synagogues, which sounds like a really simple thing, but it's taken 18 months for that to happen. So I think that there are some simple changes that could be made, but for example, they talk about the problem in education and the fact that anti-Semitism is actually being taught in schools, in RE lessons. Now, how is that going to be sorted out when the teachers' union, the NEU, which is the largest teaching union with 500,000 members, has itself an anti-Semitism problem and is obsessed with Israel? How on earth is that going to happen? Like, how are they going to even agree to what is anti-Semitism training when they have seminars where they talk about how anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism and it's fine to call Israelis Nazis, which goes against the...
And even defending the calling for their death, which is what we saw from the UCU this week, I think.
Yeah.
Which is why one of the professors of anti-Semitism, David Hush, finally quit the union in disgust.
Yeah, and I'm just, thinking about, there have been lots of different reports into anti-Semitism. For example, there was one into the Students' Union and the NUS a few years ago, well before October 7, but the massive problems of anti-Semitism within that union. And there was a report which was quite clear about how bad anti-Semitism was, how Jewish students have been made to feel uncomfortable. And the following NUS conference, there were swastikas in the toilets. And once again, Jews were made to feel uncomfortable in these places. I think for all of us, the thing that is worth mentioning to GB News listeners and viewers is the fact that We're just the first. We're the canary in the coal mine. It's kind of, a dull cliche, but the fact is it shows that there's a poison in the air. If you can't keep your Jews, then you are a country with problems. You're a country in trouble, and so that's why it needs to be stemmed. And do I see the Labour government being able to take responsibility for this? Not really, no.
Or even just confront it in the way that it needs to be. It should also be said that I'm absolutely sick of talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm sick of talking about it, and worse, I'm sick of living it.
Yeah.
But if we don't, then there but society goes. And
I'm very glad that they did take the time, that Lord Mann and Penny Mordaunt, they spent 6 months
and the
looking at
NHS
it.
as well, which is a massive problem there. And now you
Yeah.
have a bunch of doctors leaving the British Medical Association for exactly the same reasons as with the teaching unions. We've got a problem.
Yeah, and really it's got to speak to the non-Jews like them to talk about and to sort it out, because it's not us that are responsible for this, it's them, it's you.
Absolutely. And also our voices are just getting a bit sort of hoarse from shouting for the last 10 years or so. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, Nicole Lampard. So, next on Free Speech Nation, a very important story. Have new respect rules snuck into the latest police and crime bill, and what does that mean for your freedom? This is Free Speech Nation, only on GB News. Thank you.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's News Channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's News Channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Critics of the government's crime and policing bill have warned that it includes a deeply authoritarian measure that could criminalise online dissent. It is currently making its way through Parliament. It's called the Respect Order. To tell us more, I am joined by writer and academic Andrew Tettenborn. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
This is something which anybody ought to be particularly worried about, actually. If you look at the crime and policing bill, it's got a complete section right at the beginning which says, essentially, that at the behest of either the police or a local authority, a county court judge can order anybody over 18 to do anything or not to do anything. You heard that right. There's no control whatever. Wow. The only restriction is that whoever it is plans to do might cause distress to somebody somewhere.
Such loose terming.
Well, of course it is.
Terminology.
Now, what this is put forward as, and this I think is very much Yvette Cooper's baby, what this is put forward as is a measure to deal with yobs. So you find someone making people's life a misery in the streets, and you haul them before a judge and you say, right, you keep out of this street, or you actually can go down for up to 2 years. The problems are twofold. One, I doubt if it will really affect the yobs. Why? Because a very large number of yobs are under 18, and this only applies to people who are over 18. Two, the other worry is that it's likely to be used for all sorts of other purposes. Take an example from something that happened this week, or last week. Remember that bonfire in Northern Ireland being set up by working-class Northern Irish people to make a point? Now, eventually, everybody said, this is awful, you mustn't do it. They went ahead and essentially said, look, we think that we have a right to do this. Prosecute us if you dare. See you in court. Now, that's a very valuable right indeed.
But this bill would say, before they got to that point, if they said, you can't do this, and if they had done it, then they're going to go...
Precisely, yes, the local authority could simply go along to a county court judge. The county court judge could make an order even without hearing the respondent and say, don't do it. And once that order is made, it's automatically a crime to do anything which is covered by the order.
So legally also, I guess that someone could... like say, oh, don't call this politician a certain name, or anything.
That's the other thing. The other thing, which a number of you, I suspect, will have read about earlier, is a series of cases where councillors have complained that particular constituents are making life awful for them, and at times, remember, they've sent posses of police round to raid their homes. Now that actually becomes even easier now. All the council has to do, if you've got a constituent who is saying something that a councillor doesn't like and making themselves a nuisance, go along to the friendly neighbourhood county court judge, get an order telling them to shut up.
Because we've had the sort of non-crime hate bills out there, but this actually would criminalise
this makes the person...
that.
Oh, it is. The maximum penalty for this is 2 years inside.
Because we have a limited amount of time, let me get this right, though. The government are basically sneakily pushing this through, is that right?
Yes.
No one's really knows about it yet.
They're hoping, I think, that nobody will notice, and of course people will notice, at least the 9 people here. And people do need very much to make a fuss about it.
Respect order against you.
Oh, quite. The other thing, actually, is that this could also be used against publishers or editors. For example, well, you had earlier discussion of Rod Liddell saying, let's drop a couple of nuclear bombs on Glastonbury and Brighton.
It was only just the one.
And everybody went completely bananas. Now, in future, the local police go along to a court and say, tell the editor to remove that from the website.
OK. Wow, well, these respect orders sound like a danger. We have to be vigilant. Thank you very much for joining us, writer, academic Andrew Tedbon. That's the end of the first hour of Free Speech Nation. Don't go away. Plenty more between now and 9 o'clock. Thank you
very much.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Low pressure starting to move in, so the heat wave ending. Still hot in the southeast for Monday, but many areas turning fresher. And we can see that nicely on the pressure pattern. Low pressure starting to dominate. Weather fronts moving in, bringing the risk of some heavy rain and thunderstorms in places too. This evening time, fairly quiet, though. As the bands of showers get going, we'll see some hefty downpours developing, particularly across Northern Ireland down into Wales. Some heavier showers developing across Northern England and Scotland during the early hours as well. But another very warm night to come. Temperatures widely 15 to 18 Celsius, so another fairly uncomfortable night for sleeping. And a different picture for Monday morning. Sunny spells and scattered heavy showers developing. So if we take a look at the details, we can see northern Scotland, some low cloud initially, best of the sunshine across the Highlands, drizzly across towards Aberdeenshire. But the risk of some heavy showers already pushing into southern Scotland, clearing Northern Ireland, still some for northern England as well. Bands of showers pushing across Wales, parts of England, but in between, sunny spells and temperatures on the warm side up to around 21 Celsius at 8 a.m. And then through the day, we'll see these bands of showers push north and eastwards, some thunderstorms developing. Could be quite torrential across northern England into southern Scotland come the afternoon. Some localised flooding possible here, but not everywhere we'll see the showers. Lots of places could stay dry, particularly across England and Wales, and fresher for all. The low 20s generally, but still towards 30 Celsius in the southeast, so still well above average for the time of year. Low pressure still dominating into Tuesday. Bands of showers, longer spells of rain pushing north and eastwards across many parts. Feeling much fresher as the winds pick up too. Temperatures generally will be around average for the time of year, reaching the low 20s, maybe 23 or 24, and it stays similar through the rest of the week with further rain at times too. See you later.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week, including a TV exclusive with a brave student who was attacked at a pro-Palestine event for having an Israeli flag. But first, let's get a news update from Lewis Mackenzie.
Good evening. It's just after 8 o'clock. Here are your latest GB News headlines. A small plane has crashed shortly after takeoff at Southend Airport. In a statement, Essex police say they remain on the scene of a serious incident where they were alerted to reports of a collision involving one 12-metre plane. Images posted on social media show a plume of fire and black smoke coming up from the crash site at the Essex Airport. Police remain on the scene alongside fire and ambulance services. More than 1,400 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel since Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron signed the Migrations Return Agreement. This comes only days after the Prime Minister hailed the deal as historic, allowing for a partial return of small boat migrants arriving in the UK. Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander says 12,000 migrants have been stopped since Labour came to power. She spoke earlier to Camilla Tominey.
The way we're going to solve this problem is by working with the French authorities. This is a pilot scheme. We're keen to see the scheme ramp up if it's successful. We're also working with the French authorities on making sure that they can take action in the shallow waters, in the French waters off the coast of France, to be able to stop small boats from reaching our shores in the first place. Have some channel crossings since we came to power, but there's more to do.
Meanwhile, the Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says that the deal is nothing more than a gimmick.
Only 6% of illegal immigrants crossing the Channel will get sent back to France. The other 94% will get to stay in the UK. And obviously, having 94% of illegal immigrants staying in the UK will not act as any deterrent at all. It's another gimmick, just like Keir Starmer's Smash the Gang gimmick a year or so ago, which you'll notice he never mentions anymore, because so far this year we've seen record ever numbers of illegal immigrants crossing the English Channel, the highest number in history so far this year. And I'm afraid this so-called deal, this gimmick last week, is going to make no difference to that whatsoever.
A child has died in hospital after contracting measles amid fears the disease could spread as vaccine rates plunge. The child passed away at Alder Hey Children's Hospital in Liverpool. It's understood the child had been suffering from other health complications. This comes days after the parents reportedly described feeling scared as several children in Merseyside were hospitalised due to the spread of the measles virus. And finally, world number one, Jannik Sinner has won the Wimbledon men's singles title for the first time by beating defending champion Carlos Alcaraz. The Italian won the match in 4 sets to prevent the Spaniard and the world number 2 from winning his 3rd Wimbledon final in a row. They played in front of a crowd which included the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children, George and Charlotte. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in an hour's time.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. We can get some more questions now from our audience. Our first question is from Sean.
OK, well, this is kind of an odd question. It says, do we need to decolonise fishermen?
Yeah, do we need to decolonise fishermen? This is the Grimsby Fishing Heritage Centre is reviewing its collection of material relating to the town's fishing heritage. The museum's collection will be assessed to check whether anything in it might be problematic. Any connections to slavery will be highlighted, and the Grimsby Fishing Heritage Centre will also seek to include more information relating to those from diverse backgrounds and protected characteristic groups. This sounds ridiculously stupid.
I don't know where to start with this. I mean, I imagine being a fisherman in the 1890s probably was a bit close to slavery. I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be anything I'd want to do now. So I don't know what links they think... separate topic, but they're not going to find any links to slavery, are they? Excuse my ignorance.
No, I don't see what they're going to be talking about.
I think this is just a standard. We've got to put everything through this lens now, and we're going to try and find something.
Even the Grimsby fishing industry.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know we talk about a lot of different topics on this show. I can be a bit glib, but this is where it gets me serious. The Grimsby Fishing Heritage Centre. Now we're talking about it. Come on, guys, you've got to leave it alone.
Finally,
it'll be less than half an hour's work, won't it? It'll be a quick Google. No, nothing to see here. Or it depends how you define it. If it's like we need to remove anything that's seen as too Western-centric, place is shut down. So it's going to go one of two ways, isn't it? I mean, surely by now you've done all you need to do. If you've got down the list of things to decolonise and you do in the Grimsby Fishing Heritage Centre, problem solved. I don't think this is the thing that's holding any group back. Do you know what? They'd absolutely thrive if it weren't for that Grimsby Fishing Heritage Centre piping on about something that's racist.
Now, Cresta, you've told me you tend to go to the Grimsby Fishing Heritage Centre. It's like it's usually your sort of first date choice. That's what you put on your profile, your dating profile.
Stop it and move on. Is there a question? I'm going to get them to do Josh Howie. Is there anything problematic? No, actually, don't do that.
There's decolonisation all over the place. but I mean, actually, that's a good point that Steve's made. The fact that they finally... Is this the bottom of the list? They've got nowhere else to go now.
I did read, though, that there were women making the nets for them, for the fishing, so...
Those women, very problematic.
Well, they might have had a rough time, too. I don't know. As you say, if they want to find something, they will.
Well, we'll find out. I cannot wait to go. Our next question is from Richard.
Hello, Josh, thank you. It's a story I caught in the Sunday Times this morning. Yeah. Should we be paying...
Just bring your mic up a little bit.
Sorry, Josh. Yeah, it's a story I caught in the Sunday Times this morning. Should we be paying men to breastfeed babies?
Yes. Should we pay men to breastfeed babies? So let me just quickly explain this story. A trans lobby group funded by the Scottish Government has complained that the rights of men who are able to breastfeed are at risk after the Supreme Court ruling on gender clarified that Sex and Equality Act means biological sex only. The group has raised concerns about protections available to males who have transitioned to become female seeking pregnancy and maternity support. In response, Susan Smith from For Women Scotland criticised the controversial practice of men who have transitioned to women breastfeeding. She said men who do this should be investigated for putting the health of a baby at risk. So, Steve, you're into breastfeeding.
Thank heavens you said feeding at the end there. Otherwise, you would have been right, but it would have made me look bad. Yeah.
But the fact that this is money from our government...
That's the point, yeah.
...is being paid for... I would argue child abuse. I think many people would argue this is child abuse.
But that's the thing, because automatically now you've moved that into an area where people will jump straight over the answer to the question. No, because we're paying for it. Even if you don't think it's child abuse, no, we shouldn't be paying for it. You know when, like, my missus breastfed the kids and we had to pay for the lactation cookies ourselves? They're weird as well, that they do lactation cookies. Because for a while I was thinking...
You say cookie?
What is lactation cookies?
The biscuits that apparently aid the breast milk. I took a few of them, and it was absolutely fine, just in case anyone was worried. But no, you don't have to have it taxpayer-funded, do you? Even if you think that's an absolute thing that you should do, why is the taxpayer paying for it? You also don't need to... I mean, normally, this is the route. You don't need to have pressure on people to breastfeed or not. Get yourself some Aptamil. It's down the shop. Love it.
Yeah.
We're talking £2.5 million going to this charity over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to advocate for, again, I will say it, child abuse.
Well, at best, it's child experimentation, isn't it? I mean, it hasn't been going long enough that we could really have any data on it. And how do you get the data? Because I suppose you test it on Steve is probably the answer.
Get those lactose biscuits in it. But, yeah, I mean, when it just speaks to how much these charities are in a bubble when they can sort of say, hey, everybody, we've got to protect the rights of men to breastfeed babies.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we know that benefits are a big topic at the moment. It's not like we've got tons of money to splash around. This isn't where I would start spending it.
No, but lots of men's breast milk to splash around. Our next question... Our next question is from Anton.
Is woke losing its grip on young people?
Is woke losing its grip on young people? A new poll by Redfield and Wilton Strategies has found that the cost of housing and tax rates are significant concerns for young people. Only 15% mentioned sexism and racism as barriers for Britain's youth, with Policy Exchange reporting young people are less progressive than often thought. Almost 7 out of 10 say it's more important to speak the truth than to not offend people, and nearly 6 out of 10 say employers should not be able to fire someone for lawfully expressing views outside of the workplace. So this is encouraging, isn't it?
It's very encouraging. 70% saying don't worry about free speech. That's brilliant. I mean, do worry about it. Protect it. Yeah, that's. I'm shocked and happy about this. I think it's really good news. But it makes sense, doesn't it? Because for those of us who aren't woke, it's always seemed a bit silly, and it doesn't surprise me that eventually these things fall out of fashion.
Yeah, is that what it is, Steve? Do you think that it is... I mean, there is still quite a high percentage of younger people who are very much absorbed within this ideology.
Yeah, maybe, but I always think our perception of it is skewed. The loud people on TikTok get way more coverage than the rest of everyone who doesn't cry into TikTok about the thing they don't care about. Do you know what I mean? Of course, the noisy... It's a availability bias. The noisier people always get measured. But this survey just tells us the thing that we've been saying for ages. If you can't afford a house, you can't really afford a life. And you can't afford a house. So if you can't afford a house, you stop thinking that, oh, maybe people should be fired for X, Y and Z. You think, no, maybe I need to keep my job so that I can afford the house that I'd like to get so that I can have the rest of my life. You know, it all boils down to money eventually. I think that's what's happening.
Well, this is it. Is this why you're sort of... there's the truism that when people get a bit older, get property, then they turn right-wing?
Well, yeah, but these are young people.
Yeah, who don't have... So maybe
they don't have
to
property.
give,
Yes, well, that's right.
So this is what they need to do. I should be said, I didn't get... I lived with my grandma for 5 years to save up the deposit.
And that's why you're so bigoted.
Yes. Because she was a terrible bigot and it just fed into me. It also should be said that 1 in 4 men 1 in 4 younger people think that men should compete in female sports. So I would argue we still have a way to go. Our final question's from Tony.
Evening, Josh. Evening, panel. Do Germans understand what a joke is?
Do Germans understand what a joke is? This is German comedian Sebastian Hotz is facing a prison sentence for a joke he made comparing the attempted assassination of Donald Trump to trying to catch the last bus. You sadly just missed it, he wrote after the shooting in July. Hotz has been fired from his job with RBB, a public broadcaster, and charged with condoning and rewarding criminal offences. Now the case has started a heated debate on whether his comments should be protected by free speech. Are you familiar at all with this comedian, Tony? Or do you think that a comedian should ever be sent to jail for a joke?
No, Bernard Manning to be killed, wouldn't he, now?
Yeah, fair enough. He just said that Bernard Manning would be killed. But he said it, I should point out to audience at home, in an incredibly intimidating fashion. So I'm going to agree with him.
I'm sure plenty of Germans do know what a joke is, but these 3 politicians don't. I mean, yeah.
But it's more than this 3 politicians. This guy's could potentially
he's lost
going
his
to jail.
job. Yeah, and now he's.
I mean, losing your job is one thing, but going to jail.
Well, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I can't imagine somebody thinking that's worth a prison sentence. How much space have they got in their prisons? You know, it's just it's so ridiculous. And of course, it doesn't matter whether I like the joke or not. I just don't think jokes matter in that way.
No, and it's not a good joke either.
Yeah, really? But again, it doesn't matter whether it's a good joke or not, does it? Yeah, there is no joke that should see you sent to prison. Losing your job, of course you can. If you work for a state broadcaster and you do a job that everyone finds offensive, you know, that... I mean, obviously, it's different over here. You can do a lot of bad things to not lose your job with a state broadcaster. But I'm not sure that's the way we want to try and argue it should be across the world. Don't copy our newsreaders. But, yeah, no, it doesn't matter whether you like the joke or not. It doesn't matter whether other people like the joke or not. It's a joke. You've got to be allowed to say them.
Yeah. And Elon Musk, though, coming out against this comedian, which
He
seems
did come
somewhat
out against him,
hypocritical to
but
me.
I don't think he was arguing for him to have a prison sentence. I think he was saying, I think he said, "Was ist das?" That was his tweet, right? So he's not calling for any legal
I think it was the guy tweeted to... Was it who? I thought it was he tweeted to Elon Musk saying "Was ist das?"
Well, they've
Anyway,
got some
either way,
beef on Twitter, but I don't think that Elon Musk is calling for him to be sent to prison.
he's just calling him out for a
Yeah,
joke.
and you're allowed to you're allowed to loudly, publicly hate the joke, but you're not allowed to send him to prison.
You absolutely, that is true, and as evidenced by my gig this week. So,
and you also.
yeah, exactly. Next on Free Speech Nation exclusive, I'll be joined in the studio by the brave student who was violently attacked for his Israeli flag. Stay exactly where you are. You do not want to miss this. See you in 2 minutes.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
Poll, it doesn't surprise either Beth or I, shows that most Brits believe that Britain is in decline. 76% of us, though, did surprise. We fear political unrest and even violence.
And those fears come amid violent riots, of course, in Ballymena in Northern Ireland. They've left dozens of police officers injured and the area largely destroyed in some cases, particularly the local leisure centre.
Let's talk to our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie. Doogie, this report comes on the back of sustained riots over, 6 days in the province?
They are putting undocumented immigrants into areas of high deprivation. There is a group here called Mears. 85% of their properties are in socially deprived areas, and those areas are now kicking back because in amongst those areas you have pensioners and so forth that have bought their houses back in the 80s. I spoke to a couple of them that were having to be moved out by their grandchildren.
We know that people are not happy with. I think first thing to say is that people are worried about their living standards. They think they've declined. And actually, strikingly, in a different part of the survey, we found that 4 in 10 people feel like they were worse off since the COVID pandemic. That was actually particularly pronounced amongst reform voters. But overall, people are very pessimistic about their personal finances and their cost of living. So I think that's a huge driver. We also know that people aren't happy with the government's handling of immigration. And actually going back to that question about what's affecting people's living standards, which I think is a much better way of getting at how people are feeling about things like the economy, people perceive, including Labour voters, including a sizable chunk of Labour voters, that immigration has had a negative impact on their living standards. And I do think we're starting to see that filter through into pessimism about the country as a whole.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. An Irish student's display of the Israeli flag at a pro-Palestine event has sparked international controversy after footage shows he was violently confronted and forcibly removed from the venue. Let's take a look.
Someone who has represented Hadash on the communist side, you also hate Israel because it's a capitalist success story. And it's very prosperous. And it's fantastic. Israel will exist, prosperous and free, long after we are gone, And I want to ask, oh yeah, who all you like, I'm a great time. Don't you my flag, I'm free speech here. I'm not.
That was intense. The incident attracted worldwide attention and even condemnation from a member of the Israeli government. To tell us the full story, I'm delighted to say that the student in the video, Jamie O'Mahony, I hope I said that right, joins me now in the studio. Welcome, Jamie. Gets a bit tasty there.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting to be liked, obviously, when I went into the room, but to have a reaction like that, and as people, well, not in that, but as people could see elsewhere, the sheer vitriol and fury in his face. You can see the eyes are wide, the teeth are baring. Yeah. It's extraordinary to see the sight of the blue and white.
And he's a man seemingly in his 60s. Obviously, we had to blur the video, but yeah, when you watch the clip online, he just seems. Is he a manager or something? He's a professor, or
he's an academic, yeah, at the University of Limerick.
And then he sees that flag, and he just absolutely goes for it. So you went there to ask questions. It seems like you were asking reasonable questions as to pointing out the hypocrisy there. Even that seemed to upset people, just to even push back in any way, in a reasonable argument.
So I'd seen about 2 weeks before the event the Ireland-Palestine Solidarity Campaign. They're a very radical but very large organisation within Ireland on this issue. And I saw that they were hosting Ilan Pappé in Limerick, my home city. And I'd followed him for a couple of years, Ilan Pappé, not out of admiration, obviously. But I bought and read one of his books last year to understand what these people think of it. He is Israeli, and yet he doesn't believe the state should exist. And also, it's probably wrong to call him a historian, given he has said in interviews in the past that he doesn't believe in objective facts. He believes in competing narratives and ideologies trying
Classic
to win.
postmodernist, basically.
Exactly. So essentially, I put together a plan of what I wanted to say to him. We had a distinct strategy, me and the other two guys that went, of not behaving like the other side do. When there's an event that they don't like, we went in peacefully, quietly. We waited through the 45-minute lecture. And then when it came to the Q&A, when there can be a discussion of opinions, ideally, I put my hand up and I stated a question about, firstly, him using the privileges that Israel as a Western-oriented nation provides, and he wanted to use these exact privileges like freedom of speech and to criticise the state, etc.
Which don't exist in the rest of the Middle East.
Exactly. He wants to use those exact privileges that Israel uniquely affords him to bring about the destruction of that state. And he's very pro-violence. He says openly, by any means necessary, you know. And then I know that he hates Israel because it's a capitalist success story. He ran for Hadash to get into the Knesset, which is essentially the Israeli Communist Party. And I mentioned that to him as well. And then as I was coming to, I was already facing booing and shouts, whatever. So I said, look, I have the Israeli flag in my pocket. Here's the moment to, have it on display proudly and ultimately challenge the total monopoly on discourse that they have in Ireland at the moment. And then you saw the way the guy reacted, and then I was removed from the venue.
So there's an interesting sort of a side part to this story where you actually know the man, right, who assaulted you.
Yeah, former family friend. He would have been around to our house for dinner parties when I was younger. I used to play with his son when we were about 8 or 9 years old because we were of a similar age. He taught the language class at which my parents met 25 years ago, which is, it's just pretty weird to think about.
And did he speak to you afterwards? Did he recognise eventually that he did know you and calm down?
So in the video, I'm shouting, "I know you," but I think he maybe recognised me after it spilled out onto the street outside. And I was actually shouting at him at that stage, "I thought you were better than that," because that's not the way you expect a seemingly upstanding member of society to behave when they encounter someone who disagrees with them. But no, he never reached out. He wouldn't have had my number, but he'd have had the numbers definitely of both my parents. He knows the house, etc. But not a word. He probably feels like he was in the right, He probably has all the people who were there backing him and telling him that he was great. And there's certainly an element of mob mentality. I mean, he knew in his mind that he had the backing of the 70+ people that were in that room. And so in that moment, he felt so emboldened to just launch himself at me physically. It's exactly like I'd have read about even in Lord of the Flies when I was only 14, 13 years of age.
It is incredible to see it played out, to see that mob mentality. And also to see the hypocrisy there when we're meant to have free speech. There's nothing wrong with, they might disagree with you, that's totally fine, but to see it going immediately to violence, to be triggered in that way. But also before that, I think it was very telling how you saw all these people trying to boo you down. And of course, and it's interesting that you went there as to sort of counter what we see at other protests when there are pro-Israeli meetings where the tactics aren't to sort of wait politely and ask a question. It's very much to disrupt it and to shut it down from the get-go.
Mm-hmm. And that's the way Ireland has been going, and the UK to some degree, but at least in the UK there is more of a pro-Israeli cohort of people, and there is reasonable opposition, for example, within the House of Commons, the House of Lords. In Ireland, it's all one-way traffic. You know, that's how we have a situation where all throughout last year there was Hamas, PFLP and Hezbollah flags being waved openly on our streets, and the Minister for Justice and the police and the general public, no one really batted an eyelid, no one raised concerns, and it's this. But it's a symptom of the constant rhetoric that's being thrown around by predominantly, I would say, the political class, and then behind them you have media and academia, and even other, groups within society. So you have like Teachers for Palestine, you have GPs, and then you have loads of actions by the state over the last year that really emboldened people. So, for example, opening an embassy in Tehran in only September last year, less than 12 months after they were responsible for funding the worst attack on Jews in the history of the Israeli state. The recognition of a faux Palestinian state last May 2024 without defined borders, government or a capital city. Joining South Africa at the International Court of Justice genocide case.
Trying to rewrite the word genocide.
Exactly. And then Ireland, which is, basically a bit of a lapdog for the EU in Brussels, then criticising the EU in recent weeks for not being anti-Israel enough. And then the latest abhorrent form of anti-Israel sentiment within Ireland, I would say, is the prohibition on the importation of goods bill. PIGS is the acronym for it, that wants to ban any trade with Jewish businesses within Judea and Samaria or the West Bank. And it's going to be the first piece of legislation, if passed. Hopefully the Department of Foreign Affairs or the Minister will see sense. I know Jim Risch of the American Senate Foreign Affairs Committee has commented on it.
This is self-harm for Ireland. That's what's so crazy, is that America are not happy with that. And also you sort of think that Ireland's got some issues to deal with itself. Focusing on this conflict abroad and something like that, which is going to have no impact on Israel or on the war in Gaza, it seems like an incredible thing to lose your political capital with America.
That's exactly it. We're sacrificing ourselves on the altar of Palestinianism, this new, almost state religion.
The omnicause.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit about you. You're not Jewish.
No.
Right? So, we'd be very happy to have you. Strapping young man like yourself. Be good to the gene pool. But, and you got all your hair. But what took you on this journey then?
So I suppose it started a number of years ago. My father had a Jewish friend, which unfortunately isn't really the norm in Ireland just because the population is so small. But things more so developed once I turned 12 and into my teenage years. So I spent a good bit of time living in Vienna. It's a city very dear to me. I spend a lot of time there. And so when I was 12, we lived there, and we lived very near the old Gestapo building. And then you also have on the side of many, many buildings around the city, you have these Stolpersteine, as they're called. They're these little plaques on the side of buildings indicating the names and dates of people who were taken out of their homes by the Nazis. So you really are suddenly immersed in that history.
Yeah, it makes it real, as
Exactly.
opposed to something you see in school books or something. It's part of the history out there.
Exactly. And as a teenager then, I became interested in geopolitics. Just after my 17th birthday, I suppose, during the May 2021 Gaza war, I took an interest in Israel, began to investigate why my own country was obsessed with this faux national identity. People should even check the flag of the Arab Federation of Iraq and Jordan, founded in 1958 between King Faisal and King Hussein. It's the same flag that the PLO adopted 6 years later, But that's just a minor example. But essentially, I visited Israel with my parents in 2022. And
then, of course, when you actually go out there, you see that it's not this colonialist, white supremacist state, but actually the majority of people are brown and black and from all over the world.
And that ultimately there's an amazing quality of life, and it's a state that cares for its own citizens so much.
And it's not an apartheid. It's 20% of the population are Muslim Arabs, Arab Muslims, and full equal rights. But coming back to Ireland, do you think it's because I've just been living online and seeing friends of mine who are Irish, and just the rhetoric coming out of there is just increasingly hateful and extreme. And some people say it's the most anti-Semitic place in Europe.
I think that's reasonable to say. It's extraordinary the way things have developed in Ireland over the last few decades, but particularly since October 7th. So it is a legacy of the relationship between the IRA and the PLO. That's where it comes from in the 60s and 70s. And unfortunately, it's bled down into mainstream society since then. And I mean, yeah, it just since the war, Ireland has decided to take on these extreme anti-Israel stances, I would say almost being led so by our president, Michael D. Higgins, who, for example, in January, he spoke at a Holocaust commemoration ceremony, despite protests from an actual Holocaust survivor, Tommy Reichenthal, who asked him not to speak. He went anyway, and he made it about Gaza.
He also had a conspiracy about how Jews had leaked a letter, his letter to Iran, when actually he put it out himself.
He wrote a love letter to Masoud Pezeshkian, the Iranian president, last summer. And then when it was exposed by the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs as, look, this guy loves us, he then just simply pulled it out of the air that the Israeli embassy had leaked it. He also pulled out of the air the fact that, as he says, that Israel wants settlements in Egypt. It's absolutely ludicrous. He also met with the chief rabbi, and who spoke to him, voiced concerns over concern amongst the Jewish community in Ireland about anti-Semitism.
It's a tiny community. I mean, it's small in the UK. Yeah, 2,000 people. Wow.
He then went out the next day and said there's no anti-Semitism in Ireland, despite having met the chief rabbi only the day before. And then also a thing that it really needs to be mentioned, and it saddens me that no one in the political class will speak about, is that one of our own was murdered on October 7th. Kim Damty, a young woman murdered at the Nova Festival. I saw her picture when I visited there recently. And then we had Emily Hand as well, who was an 8-year-old girl who was kidnapped and thankfully released in a hostage exchange.
And this is just not talked about. People don't know about this. The people they're supporting are murdering Irish. It's like when they're supporting Hezbollah, and Hezbollah responsible for Irish peace.
Private Sean Rooney was killed by Hezbollah in 2022. Yeah.
So do you think that Ireland or the Irish population are in any way cottoning on to how dangerous this rhetoric is and how deep the problem goes? Have you seen any changes yourself? Are there other people who are standing up to it?
There are those of us who are trying to be the change. I set up a pro-Israel society in my university back in March, and I was then removed from my position as chair of the debate society for that. But unfortunately, you have people like Rachel Moselle, but unfortunately, generally, no. People in Ireland think that when they're called anti-Semitic, they turn around and their response is to say, oh, look, no, it's not anti-Semitic to criticise Israel, and that's it. And they don't delve any deeper into any sort of self-reflection on the issue.
Do you, and I even heard your girlfriend broke up with you? Or is that just you just say, oh, it's because I'm pro-Israel, but really it was because, you didn't change your socks?
It certainly had to do with the society that I set up back in March, yeah.
Really, and how are you finding the treatment from other students? Are you kind of persona non grata?
It's back in my university to some degree, yeah. Probably, I mean, some people stuck by me, and I really respect and appreciate that. But yeah, generally it's a very unpopular thing to do. Setting up that society was, yeah, I mean, the university went into meltdown over it, which is really something else to witness. But look, it was a learning experience, and it exposed, as I thought anyway, a lot of hatred. I mean, the amount of, as I say, sheer vitriol that we received for standing with an Irish flag next to an Israeli flag and a photo of the Bibas family, and that just inspired so much hatred from these people, and it spoke pretty badly for what they believe and how they behave. But for myself, it generally instilled, I'd say, resilience. So it meant that this time around, when that video came out, I was able to just kind of ignore and laugh off people who, hate me and whatever. But yeah, it certainly comes with negativity.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I know that there's a price to be paid to take a stand, but I believe at the same time you very much exposed the hate, just showing an Israeli flag to get that kind of physical response. Horrible to go through, but at the same time, they showed themselves up. And but thank you for coming, sharing your story. Thank you for doing what you're doing in Ireland.
Thank you so much.
Jamie O'Mahony, I hope I said that right there. I'll also say that he's huge, so, you know, try your luck when he gets the flag out next time. GB News contacted the Irish-Palestinian Solidarity Campaign for comment, but did not receive a response. The chair of the organisation, Zoe Lawler, did tell the Limerick Times, obviously it was planned, Mr. O'Mahony, I'm sorry, that was racist on me.
Sorry, a lot of Irish people, a lot of non-Irish people.
Now there's more Irish people going to hate Jews because of my terrible pronunciation. I apologise.
The Limerick leader, I think, by the way.
Limerick leader said in an online statement that he went there to protest against Ilan Pappé. They were allowed in the venue in good faith. This is all to distract what's going on in Palestine and what Israel is doing, as we've seen with Kneecap at Glastonbury. Anything but what is going on is the story. Instead of people talking about the Professor Pappé said on Saturday, we end up talking about this. Well, yes, we did. Next on Free Speech Nation, activists are ruining Edinburgh literary festivals. Find out how after the break with brilliant friend of the show, David Oldroyd-Bolt. This is Free Speech Nation, only on GB News. Thanks, mate.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello, well, there's plenty of hot and sunny weather across Europe, but there are still some showers out there for some of us. Across Madeira, sunny spells, some outbreaks of rain. Canary Islands, a mixture of sunny spells too. Plenty of sunshine across Portugal and Spain, with some showers across the Alps. Across the Greek islands, plenty of sunshine here and feeling hot. And that continues as we go through the week. Plenty of sunshine with temperatures into the low 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Low pressure starting to move in, so the heat wave ending. Still hot in the southeast for Monday, but many areas turning fresher. And we can see that nicely on the pressure pattern. Low pressure starting to dominate. Weather fronts moving in, bringing the risk of some heavy rain and thunderstorms in places too. This evening time, fairly quiet, though. As the bands of showers get going, we'll see some hefty downpours developing, particularly across Northern Ireland down into Wales. Some heavier showers developing across Northern England and Scotland during the early hours as well. But another very warm night to come. Temperatures widely 15 to 18 Celsius, so another fairly uncomfortable night for sleeping. And a different picture for Monday morning. Sunny spells and scattered heavy showers developing. So if we take a look at the details, we can see northern Scotland, some low cloud initially, best of the sunshine across the Highlands, drizzly across towards Aberdeenshire. But the risk of some heavy showers already pushing into southern Scotland, clearing Northern Ireland, still some for northern England as well. Bands of showers pushing across Wales, parts of England, but in between, sunny spells and temperatures on the warm side up to around 21 Celsius at 8 a.m. And then through the day, we'll see these bands of showers push north and eastwards, some thunderstorms developing. Could be quite torrential across northern England into southern Scotland come the afternoon. Some localised flooding possible here, but not everywhere will see the showers. Lots of places could stay dry, particularly across England and Wales, and fresher for all. The low 20s generally, but still towards 30 Celsius in the southeast, so still well above average for the time of year. Low pressure still dominating into Tuesday. Bands of showers, longer spells of rain pushing north and eastwards across many parts. Feeling much fresher as the winds pick up too. Temperatures generally will be around average for the time of year, reaching the low 20s, maybe 23 or 24, and it stays similar through the rest of the week with further rain at times too. See you later.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Edinburgh's festivals are facing financial turmoil as attracting corporate sponsorship has become a minefield, according to a fringe executive. Activist groups organised boycotts of the Edinburgh International Book Festival, amongst many others, claiming they were profiting from investments in fossil fuel companies. In previous years, open letters have been signed by hundreds of authors and speakers, and they have been withdrawn, including climate activist Greta Thunberg, who cancelled her event there in 2023. Who else to discuss this than friend of Free Speech Nation, historian and broadcaster David Oldroyd Bolt. Welcome. David, you reap what you sow.
Couldn't be clearer, could it really? If you spend years and years trying to buddy up with some of the most contentious and indeed tendentious political causes going, such as, for instance, extreme climate activism, and at the same time castigating anybody engaged in any kind of activity to do with fossil fuels, you shouldn't be surprised when the people from whom you're demanding millions of pounds to then insult eventually turn around and say, actually, we're not bothered about this anymore. So I think Baillie Gifford, for instance, which was sponsoring the Edinburgh Festival...
for like 10 years or more.
Yeah, indeed, and 6 other literary festivals, including Hay, has just stopped doing it. They said they have about 2% of their revenue coming from investments even tangentially associated with fossil fuel. So 2% out of an enormous amount. But that is still clearly too much for the likes of Greta Thunberg and those celebrities who like to cosy up.
But hundreds of normal authors. Now, these literary festivals are incredibly important for them. That's where they go out, that's where they advertise their book, that's where they sell their books. They've just shot themselves in the foot here.
Well, I think the blame lies not with those authors who do the circuit and do the signings and flog themselves up and down motorways in old cars to try and make a few quid here and there. It's the big-name authors. It's those who have financial security and guaranteed sales. I mean, they could write on the back of a crisp packet and someone will go out and buy it. And for them, it doesn't really matter. Yes, it's nice to have the appearances at festivals because it helps their celebrity, but it's not directly affecting their incomes. Whereas if you are, the writer whose writing is selling moderately well, but that can mean a few thousand copies a year, 10,000 copies. The average salary, or rather the average earnings of an author in this country is somewhere between £12,000 and £15,000. It's a horribly paid vocation. But if you're at the top of the tree, you don't care about that. So you will sign the open letters to The Guardian. You will pull out of the festivals or make a big noise about it.
But I bet there are people who signed that letter who are earning less than that.
Well, in which case... who
didn't think it through properly.
Well, either that or it is a genuine moral stand for them and they are prepared to take it on the chin.
But I wonder if it's an even less a moral stand. I think it's just they're going along with it through groupthink.
I certainly agree that there is going to be an aspect of that. With any fashionable political cause, the moment that people in the public eye start getting involved, you have to ask, are they simply trying to, as it were, whitewash their own reputations or make sure that nobody goes up to them and says, why haven't you signed this letter? And if you don't really have strong principles or strong ideas either side, you probably would go along with the crowd, unless you have...
And now we're seeing the unintended consequences.
Yeah.
Which are that they're going to be suffering, and it's not just the literary festivals; it's the fringe festivals. Because, of course, not even when you start these campaigns, this is what's been talked about now, is that other companies just don't want to even go there.
Yeah, I think there's a curious hypocrisy in corporate involvement with political issues, because, for instance, if it's something like Pride. In the Western world, they're all over it because they think it makes them good, lovely
less
people.
so interesting.
But that is decreasing. Whereas, of course, in the Middle East, they have nothing to do with it at all. So there's hypocrisy there. And climate change is one of the causes de nos jours. It's one of the things that you can advocate for harder and harder action on without knowing a damn thing about the issues, without caring about the fact that the policies proposed are ruinous and probably won't work, and in any case there are other solutions, because it makes you popular as one of the in crowd. So I think there is an enormous amount of hypocrisy there. But when it's got to the point that things like the Edinburgh Festival are essentially in danger. And the actual Edinburgh Festival is one of the finest arts festivals in the world. The Fringe Festival is more self-funding, and as you know, it's in smaller venues with often scratch performances and scratch audiences. But the main thing itself is a hugely expensive production because it puts on operas and big art shows. It flies in orchestras and performers from all around the world. It's very expensive to run. And it's a great loss to the Scottish cultural life. It's a great loss to those of us who, in fact, would like to go and see and hear these productions, that because of the stupid political comments of a few people, Baillie Gifford has decided to pull out, and that's millions of pounds gone.
Incredibly frustrating. The other story this week was National Trust. They're letting go, I think, 550 people, a good about 6% of their workforce. The suggestion is it's because of tax changes, minimum wage increase, but it also has to tie into how they've kind of wokeified themselves, surely.
I think it certainly will have an aspect of tax increases playing a part in this. The rise in national insurance contributions from employers is a bad tax, full stop. And many of us have argued that minimum wage, since its inception, that minimum wage is inherently inflationary. So eventually, again, you reap what you sow. But I can't help but think that the National Trust is moaning about it. But think you've got 11,000 staff across about 500 historic houses, castles and other things. Many of those have not reopened, and certainly not reopened fully since the pandemic. They're still running on seasonal closures, they're running shorter hours. How many staff do they actually need? How many people does it take to man a ticket gate?
So you think this might be an excuse to let go some of the staff?
I think there's probably an excuse that they've realised that they're overmanned and are trying to do something about that while blaming someone else. But there must also be the question why they aren't running that full service again, and why visitor numbers have risen slightly, but visitor income clearly hasn't run it nearly so much as it needs to do to keep up with the inflationary pressures of recent years. So the National Trust needs to pull its socks up, I think, get back to full service in all of its places on the most efficient model of employment properly, and also go back to doing what it did when it was the most beloved national institution we have, probably next to the NHS and, I hope, Lord's Cricket Ground. It's got to go back to just being very good at presenting historic houses and other areas of national interest and tradition in a disinterested, historically informed way. Stop trying to be, as we just said, stop trying to be in with the in crowd, because that fashion will pass, and then you look extremely stupid, and you have lost your core.
And not only have you lost some of your core audience, but also you've lost a lot of money.
Yeah,
so
that's what I mean.
It feels frustrating. Again, you reap what you sow. That's
losing both core audience and core purpose. And I think this is what really is at the heart of my criticism of the National Trust and that of groups like Restore Trust, that it has lost its core purpose and instead is trying to be a politically campaigning organisation. Much as I would say in Mutatis Mutandis, so has something like Oxfam, which instead of being the Oxford Famine Relief Campaign, is now an extremely politicised campaigning group. So and they're going to lose money. They are losing money. So why not go back to doing what you was founded to do in the National Trust case by Octavia Hill in as far back as 1895, and then by Acts of Parliament subsequently. Go back to doing what you are supposed to do, leave the campaigning groups to do their thing, and keep your core audience and your core purpose.
Well, you know what? That's a message that could be spread to many institutions in this country. Thank you very much for joining us. Historian broadcaster David Oldroyd-Bolt. Next on Free Speech Nation, my wonderful panel will be joining me for social sensations and an audience question. This is Free Speech Nation, only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, in the past few minutes, Meghan Markle has paid a sweet tribute to Princess Lilibet as she turns 4 today. It comes just a day after the Duchess of Sussex said she'd love to go into business with her daughter in the future.
Well, that's all it is, another money-making effort there. That's to make up for nobody buying her jam. I mean, do you really care if you see a picture of her kid or not? You do, that's it.
I'd like to see her face, to be honest.
I don't. Now, back to Diana, of course, who was a real star and style icon and whatever. And one day I can remember I complimented her on her outfit that she was wearing, and it was the same colour as the outfit you were wearing yesterday.
Bottle green?
No. RUC green, Royal Ulster Constabulary green. As she pointed out to me, she said, yes, RUC green, what do you think? And then she went into a whole, literally, sob story. She started crying about a bomb explosion there had been in Northern Ireland or whatever. She was very, very close, very connected with all of that. But, yeah, so...
And knowledgeable as well, by the sound of things.
She was very knowledgeable, yeah. And then she went on to talk about William and Harry going to school and how that upset her, and they went to boarding school or whatever it is. So we talked about all those things. And I forgot why I was going to tell you that story, but there was some reason. But she was... it was the same colour as what you were wearing yesterday, anyway, the green.
And she was so lovely by the sounds of things.
She was film star status. I mean, you just saw her in a room and you would go...
Wow.
She's special, yeah, she's special.
And I think whoever that was speaking in that report there saying, one of the designers, I think it was the designer of the wedding dress, saying it was just clothes or just a dress, but then Diana wore it and then it was something special. Absolutely. And it became part of history. And that's exactly what happened.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. It's time for Social Sensations, the part of the show where we look at what's been going viral this week on social media. First up is this video. Classic football thugs.
Classic. So I've got to stop funding those bars in Westminster, isn't it?
Is that what? Yeah.
Was Angela Rayner there? I don't know.
Was that the party that was going on number 10? No. So there's our ex-Prime Minister enjoying life, enjoying a bit of...
Looking very dignified there, Boris.
Yeah, look, why not have a bit of fun?
Yeah, no, and that's almost the character that made him successful. So, you know, don't shy away from it now. We all know the stories, don't we? Before he walks on stage, he roughs up his hair. So it's all part of the act anyway. He can't stop now. He's got an after-dinner circuit to keep doing.
Do you think that was him performing on the after-dinner circuit?
I kind of think... Not, probably, yeah. And they regret booking him for a speech. He's like, what's he do? He's just chanting along. It's bizarre. No, I think he still knows he's got to do the act.
There he is, yeah. He's having fun. He's having fun. He's drinking...
Doesn't he need to be a new dad again soon?
Is he drinking...
No, she's got a baby now.
Now, I can't tell. Is he drinking white wine or is he drinking beer out of a glass?
Do you know what? In case of one, I should say this. I mispronounced something the other day, and I've now invented brosé wine. And I think that's what lads should drink. Don't have lager, it's too carby. Rosé for the lads.
Have some rosé. Very nice. Look at you creating. So next up, we've got this video.
What would you rather have in your country, number 1 or number 2?
Number 2.
Number 2?
Yeah, number 2. Number 2?
Number 2?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, is there a third option where they're both not there? Yeah, I'm not a fan of traitors or fascists.
Okay, so let's just bring a terrorist into the country.
So this is the choice between a MAGA supporter and a terrorist, and they're going for Osama bin Laden.
Yeah. And, by the way, it's a specific terrorist and a generic MAGA supporter. Yeah. So that's what's really crazy about this. Yeah, they don't want any MAGA supporters, so they'll take a terrorist.
Yeah, it's interesting whether he would... I wonder if Osama bin Laden would choose them or a MAGA supporter.
I wonder, yeah. That's the problem, isn't it? That you've got to be able to fall out with people without wishing their existence to disappear. And then... This is what bothers me about the way politics has gone, especially in America, but it's kind of over here, that people refuse to speak to the other side. I think that you know, never kissed a Tory, you shouldn't even exist. And they go, how did we lose that? Because you don't know what the rest of the world's like.
It's crazy. Well, Osama bin Laden's become obviously a big hero on TikTok.
Great things ahead of him. Yeah. Great things ahead of him.
We've got one final question from our audience.
Hi. I'm someone that's ever increasingly concerned about what I see the censorship of comedians. As people that obviously are part of the comic world, are comedians worried, and are they actually changing their material because of this, what I perceive as new censorship?
I see. So, yeah, I mean, Steve, I'm still doing the same rubbish jokes I did before.
Yeah, because it requires writing new ones. That's the only reason I've not changed. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in the clubs, I don't feel any pressure. But then again, it's not like my act is that controversial. It's disgusting, but it's not controversial. So
what do you think, Cressida? Have you changed your act?
Well, similarly, I mainly make jokes about my dad. So that's obviously always been controversial.
Yeah, I mean, he is black, so... I don't know why I said that. That was a strange thing to finish the show on. OK, so if you want to join us live in the studio, be part of our wonderful audience, you can. Please go to gbnews.com/tickets. Stay tuned for the brilliant Ben Leo tonight. That's next. Thank you for watching us and joining Free Speech Nation. Goodbye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Low pressure starting to move in, so the heat wave ending. Still hot in the southeast for Monday, but many areas turning fresher. And we can see that nicely on the pressure pattern. Low pressure starting to dominate. Weather fronts moving in, bringing the risk of some heavy rain and thunderstorms in places too. This evening time, fairly quiet, though. As the bands of showers get going, we'll see some hefty downpours developing, particularly across Northern Ireland down into Wales. Some heavier showers developing across Northern England and Scotland during the early hours as well. But another very warm night to come. Temperatures widely 15 to 18 Celsius, so another fairly uncomfortable night for sleeping. And a different picture for Monday morning. Sunny spells and scattered heavy showers developing. So if we take a look at the details, we can see northern Scotland, some low cloud initially, best of the sunshine across the Highlands, drizzly across towards Aberdeenshire. But the risk of some heavy showers already pushing into southern Scotland, clearing Northern Ireland, still some for northern England as well. Bands of showers pushing across Wales, parts of England, but in between, sunny spells and temperatures on the warm side up to around 21 Celsius at 8 a.m. And then through the day, we'll see these bands of showers push north and eastwards, some thunderstorms developing, could be quite torrential across northern England into southern Scotland come the afternoon. Some localised flooding possible here, but not everywhere we'll see the showers. Lots of places could stay dry, particularly across England and Wales, and fresher for all. The low 20s generally, but still towards 30 Celsius in the southeast, so still well above average for the time of year. Low pressure still dominating into Tuesday. Bands of showers, longer spells of rain pushing north and eastwards across many parts. Feeling much fresher as the winds pick up too. Temperatures generally will be around average for the time of year, reaching the low 20s, maybe 23 or 24, and it stays similar through the rest of the week with further rain at times too. See you later.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with.